Sometimes you can look at a new piece of fishing tackle and know instinctively that it's going to help you catch more fish. When the weather turns warmer and the fish are more active, there's no better way to target them than fishing shallow in the upper layers of the water. Now, about 3 years ago, we produced a film with Alan Scotthorne making his own crystal jigger floats. The feedback we received from this film was amazing, and we had so many questions from the public asking, are we ever going to produce a crystal jigger float? Now, designing any new product, whether it's a rod, a reel, even a float, it takes so much time, planning and field tested to ensure that that product meets all the criteria that it was designed to do. Just like the rest of our floats, these new crystal jigger floats are manufactured here in one of our Oxford sites. Given the way that this method is fished, in that you only have a bulk of shot, after extensive testing, we decided on just 2 sizes, a 0.4 of a gram and a 0.6 of a gram. We're here at the perfect venue to demonstrate just how well these new floats work. Now, Lake View Fishery in Melton Mowbray has recently been taken over by Ross Jalfs, and we caught up with him earlier and he told us what you can expect when you visit Lake View Fishery.
This is Lake View. Gemma and I have owned it for 15 months and we've got big plans. We have 9 lakes here and one of those is a designated specimen lake. We also have a 50-seater cafe and Becky does a fantastic breakfast. And brand new tackle shop stocking most of the major brands. Although we're situated in the heart of the countryside, we're only 5 minutes from Melton Mowbray. We're a day ticket fishery. Day tickets are available in the tackle shop for £10 or £12 for the specimen lake. We're open from 7:30 in the morning till 6 p.m. unless you've booked on for the carp lake, 24-hour fishing is available. All of our lakes are really well stocked with F1s and carp, and we also have a silverfish lake with beautiful roach and skimmers. We welcome all anglers of all abilities and we're always here to help.
Now, these floats really do work so well, and who better than 5-time world champion Alan Scotthorne to demonstrate them in use.
Crystal jiggers came about by me really playing around with one of our original floats, which were a clear polymer float, a plastic float that were made for just fishing on a fixed rig. And what I did, I played around cutting them up and taking the base off the float to make a float that I thought was just absolutely perfect for this style of fishing. Fishing with a jigger, with a float that slides on the line. So of course at Drennan we've took that now a step further, where we've actually produced a proper float with a weighted base, so the float sits up once it enters the water. Now, why this actually works so well is that a lot of the balsa type floats are so easy to destroy, because a lot of the time, especially when you're fishing shallow like I am today, I mean the fish are right up in the water, a lot of the time your actual float finishes up in the landing net. So you can imagine anything that's not strong is going to destroy. And that's what happens with the balsa type versions. They don't last very long at all, where your crystal dibber, your polymer type float, is almost indestructible. I've actually put one on the bank this morning and stood on it and still managed to recover it so I could actually fish with it. Because the fish are right on the surface, I'm still using a 6-inch hook length. I prefer, especially when I'm fishing for F1s, to fish with a 6-inch hook length. And I'm just fishing with a hair rig caster. I've got a caster in a band, so that the bait is not actually on the hook, it's a banded hair rig. And of course, once your hook's free above the caster, they literally suck the caster in, and because the line's as tight as it can possibly be, you hardly miss any bites at all. They just pull the elastic down. Now, one thing that you do need when you're fishing like this, you don't particularly need too heavy a main line. I only use 018 or 020 at the very most as a main line. but that line needs to be straight. So when you take it off the rig as such, make sure the line is straight above the float so that the line will slide through the float easily. This is why a crystal jigger works so well. You've got to think that the float is semi-loaded, so the float sits up on the water. Now, because it sits upright, it allows you to pass the line through the body. Now, why do you hook so many bites? You miss very, very few bites with it. And this is because the line from the pole tip is ultra tight all the time. So as you lower that bait, a fish intercepts it, it can hook itself on the elastic. It pulls the elastic out. And this is why this rig is so good when you're fishing shallow. You can find out the depth that the fish are at very quickly. You can then lower to that point where the fish are more quickly and just hold the line tight with the stop just above the float. You can also easily move the bait. You can lift the bait and drop it. And this is why they call it a jigger. You can actually jig the bait up and down. But by doing this, you're also helping to hook the fish. Because if a fish intercepts that bait as you lift, it'll pull the pole down, it'll pull the elastic out of the pole, hooking itself. Now I've simply shotted these floats with olivettes. On the 0.6, I've got an inline Drennan olivette, and this is just locked on the top of the hook length. I've got a 6-inch hook length of 0.13, and the knot on the top of the actual hook length keeps the olivette in place. So on a 0.6, I've got a 0.4 olivette because you've got a certain amount of loading in the float. On a 0.4, I have a 0.3 olivette, and this is because I don't want the float to actually sink below the surface. There's some venues where you're not allowed to overshot, and a 0.3 olivette on a 0.4 float, the float still stays above the water. On a 0.6, a 0.4 olivette, again, doesn't sink the float. We've literally got hundreds of venues across England full of these type of fish, F1s. If you've not given jigger fishing a go, get out there and get on the venues fishing shallow and you'll catch lots of these type of fish. What a fantastic venue Lake View is, and what an effective method jigger fishing is, and that is proof in the pudding.